Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Wedding Photo Podcast. I hope everybody is staying healthy, staying safe, doing well. I feel pretty fortunate today. I'm actually recording this intro, outro outside in our backyard. California's had some pretty nice weather recently, so I'm taking advantage of that. I'd like to record full episodes of the podcast outside, but you've probably heard it in some episodes, but we've got some pretty loud dogs, and some neighbors in the back and in the front that kind of keep us from that. So it's really not that bad, but just to prevent it altogether, I tried to record indoors. But anyways, it's a pretty nice day outside, so I'm enjoying the weather. I hope all of you guys are doing well and just taking care of yourselves. I know this is a crazy time that we're going through, and we're just trying to do our best. So and all I'm trying to do is provide a distraction for everybody from everything that's going on. So just want to remind everybody, if you want to reach out to me, if you have any questions that you want to have answered on the podcast, or just some topics that you want me to bring up, you can find me on Instagram at Wedding Photo Podcast. You can also find me on Twitter at DelToroPhoto, and you can also join our Facebook group. We have a growing community there where we talk about different topics. We talk about different articles that have been brought up, wedding related, photography related. So go over there and join the group. I have also teamed up with Publisher by Narrative. It's a desktop app that you can use to create blogs quicker, more efficiently. It's a really great app. I've been using them since just the end of last year, and it's been pretty great. And if you want to, you can try them out for free. And if you decide that you want to purchase their app, you can get 15% off using the code DelToroPhoto. All the links, including that affiliate link, are in the show notes below. If you do want to support the podcast, all I ask is that you share this podcast with others, share it with your friends, let them know about it so they can take a listen. If you can, leave a 5-star rating and leave a review. It makes the podcast more discoverable for others to find. So thank you guys for following along. Today, I have another exciting guest. I want to say it's been over a year now, maybe a year or two ago. Just somehow along this, having this podcast, I discovered another photographer. Did not know that they lived out in Florida. All I knew is that their work was really great, and I enjoyed seeing their stuff on my feed. The Lagrones. Today I have Josh LaGrone. Josh and Megan are a wedding photography duo, husband and wife team. They've been photographing weddings for a couple years now. I think they got their start doing portrait photography. He talks more about it in the episode. But I had Josh on to come and talk to us about how they got started. We do a little bit of gear talk, and it was just a pleasure having him on and talking to him and getting to know more about him and them as a business, and everything that they've been up to now. So without any further ado, I present to you Josh LaGrone. It's Lagrones, right? Lagrones?
Mm-hmm.
The Lagrones?
Yeah. I'm really impressed that you got it right. I've heard Lagrone, I've heard LaGroin. So, yeah, LaGrone is good job.
Well, I mean, I could have messed it up, man. And trust me, I know how it feels. I grew up with everybody pronouncing my name every which way except for Ulysses.
Yeah.
So I totally get it. Hey, thanks for coming on, man, and talking with me.
Yeah, dude. Thanks for having me.
So you're all the way in Florida?
I am. Yeah.
I don't think I really realized it until you mentioned that. I had no idea you were in Florida, man.
Really? Yeah. We're surviving over here.
What's it like over there right now? What part of Florida?
Lakeland. We're technically in Central Florida, so we're literally smack dab in between Orlando and Tampa. Weather-wise, it's on and off. I think yesterday it was like 95, and today it's like 82. So I don't think even Florida knows what's going on right now.
So you guys got some nice weather going on right now, then.
I think so. Yeah. Like right now, nice for me. I'm weird. I really like overcast, kind of gloomy. So that's what it's been like today. But yesterday it's pretty warm.
What is when it comes to photography, like doing weddings and stuff, what's like the worst case scenario in Florida?
Well, that's the thing. So I feel like Florida has the reputation of being the sunshine state.
Mm-hmm.
But what's funny about that is, especially during the summer, I would say like 90% of the time, it's always raining. So like when it is warm out, it's nice, and when the sun's out. But the biggest hindrance, I would say, probably between maybe June and September, there's a really, really good chance that like 4 days out of the week, there's going to be rain. So I think for planning for weddings, a lot of people, if they do book maybe a venue or something during that time,
yeah,
they're 99% of the time, they're trying to do something indoor just to help avoid that.
And this is just like, do you guys have to deal with hurricanes a lot out there too? Like when it comes to weddings? I hear about it all the time, but I was like, is it true? Is it really that bad over there?
It is. It's one of those where I think the majority of people at this point don't even try to book anything during hurricane season, just because there's a chance of that happening, or just like I said, on and off rain gets to be annoying after a while. So I think the sweet spot for us is probably between October to May, about 7 months out of the year, it is funny because, and you probably deal with this too, being in California, a lot of photographers, when they talk about being in the off season or whatever, because it's snow, our off season is because we're probably going to get a hurricane.
Yeah. So
we just kind of have to wait it out.
I feel like, I feel like it's different for all the photographers out here in California, because every year that I've photographed weddings, our off season has been a different month every time. Like it's never the same, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't think it's really a seasonal thing. It's just, you know, this August, it happened to have the least amount of weddings than last year. Last August, we had the most amount of weddings than previous years, you know? So I feel like we don't have like a seasonal wedding season, a proper wedding season.
Yeah.
Well, let's get everybody to know you a little bit more, man. Tell us a little bit about yourselves and about yourself. You and your wife, you guys shoot together, right?
Yes,
so
we do.
Tell us about yourself and how you guys got into the wedding industry.
Okay. Well, it actually kind of started with Meg first. Meg is my wife, and she, I think probably around maybe 2013, she kept going back and forth and kept just being like, man, I think I'd really like to get nothing crazy, just like a point and shoot camera. She's always had experience with graphic design, and even when she was a teenager, I think she did a lot of like high school projects and stuff where she was just working on different things. So she was really, really familiar with Photoshop already, and she wanted a camera that she could have to just kind of take pictures of both of us and around the house. And she was like, well, if I get one, she felt like it would help her. She wanted to learn more about editing and, you know, kind of seeing what she already knew with all of that, working with photos, and just wanted to see what she could do. And after a few months, we got one, and she really loved it, had a ton of fun with it, and decided that she really wanted to pursue it more.
What'd you guys get?
The point and shoot, I don't know. I think it was just one of those little, like the Nikon rinky-dink ones.
Oh, okay.
But what's funny is, so we shoot Sony now, like I think a lot of people do these days. And at the time, we were kind of weighing our options on, okay, if we get a more capable camera, what do we want to get? So we looked at the big names at the time, which were Nikon and Canon. And then we watched like a ton of YouTube videos, and we saw this one for a Sony A3000. And we were like, that seems really cool. That seems different. Seems like it's really user-friendly. So we got that. So I guess we've been shooting Sony since like 2013, back when like nobody even really paid it much attention. I remember one of our photographer friends was like, hey, what kind of camera did you get? And we were like, oh, we got a Sony A3000. And it's garbage now, but at the time it was cool. And it was just so funny because they were like, okay, that's interesting. They didn't want to say it. It sounded bad, so they just said interesting instead. And we were like, yeah, we really like it. And so anyway, she got that. at first the business was just her. It was Meg and LaGrone Photography. And I don't know. I think for her, she really had a ton of fun just learning the camera. I had a ton of fun learning the camera. I was her test subject for so long of trying to figure out the new settings and stuff that I really, really got into learning how it worked. And I loved watching the YouTube videos, anything we could find, literally any interviews, whatever. We started learning about different photographers that we really liked and started following their stuff. And we both kind of started learning at the same time, especially since I'm the one, you know, if she wanted to try something new, she would try it out on me, or vice versa. If I saw something that was cool, I'd try it out with her. And then for a couple of years, she did the photos just by herself because at the time I was working full time. And there were times where if she ever did sessions, she wasn't doing weddings at that point. Weddings aren't even something we started doing until a couple of years ago. And at the time, she was literally just a portrait family photographer. That's it. So if she ever had like a large family or something and needed help, I would go and bring like an extra camera just in case. And but otherwise, it was all her. Around that time, the day job that I have now, media department opened up, and basically an opportunity came where I was able to work in the department, and I started working with a lot of like internal employees if they did talking head interviews or basically like any events that were going on in the building and stuff. It was cool. I got to learn how to either record those or shoot those or whatever, and kind of get more familiar with the equipment they had. So I was like, at the time, I think there was a little bit where I did use a couple like Nikon D720s, I think. And then for a lot of the video stuff they had, I think it was RX10s, the Sonys.
Yeah.
So messed around with those for a bit and really, really just kind of confirmed that I really, really loved it too. And at that point, Meg was starting to pick up a lot of business portrait wise. And so we just figured, hey, I really like it. She really likes it too. It's something we both get to do together, which is fun. It doesn't, you know, we don't step on each other's toes or anything. So we just basically decided to join up and go on from there. So we've been doing that ever since.
So as far as the wedding stuff goes, how do you guys run that business?
So we shoot everything together.
Yeah.
So our pricing and everything just kind of already includes us going into it. I mentioned before, we didn't plan on doing weddings. One, because we do both work full time. So we didn't want to feel overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Our biggest fear was getting into something and then getting burnout, especially when we're having so much fun doing it.
Yeah.
But, decided that we weren't going to do weddings. We didn't want to feel overwhelmed. We didn't want it to be something that kind of took away from the joy that we were having.
Yeah.
And, I think that there were a couple of sessions, like we would still do engagement sessions, and we did a couple of engagement sessions, and the couple would say, you know, hey, what's your guys' pricing on wedding? And we'd be like, oh, we don't shoot weddings. And, you know, it was very, very kind of them, because they would be like, well, that sucks, because we'd really like, number one, continuity, but two, you know, we'd really like to have you guys do the wedding too. And I think the last couple that had asked that and we said no, when we got in the car, we were like, man, they were so cool. They were so nice. Why would we say no to people like that? Like, the only reason why we would feel overwhelmed is if we start making ourselves overwhelmed.
Yeah.
If we start taking on too much work, we can always reevaluate. But if we're having fun doing it, and if it's for people who we really enjoy, then why not? So
that's a really good way to make that adjustment, or just to look at it, you know?
Thanks. Yeah. So that was a couple years ago. And I don't know, it's the first couple we were like, okay, yeah, you know, we did it, whatever. It's been cool. And we really, really wound up having a lot more fun than I think we thought we would. And ever since then, we were like, okay, well, if we're here, let's go for it. So we both still work full time. So we're still at that point where we don't want to take on so much work that we do get burnout.
Yeah.
So I think at the moment we're really trying to limit it to like no more than like 12 a year or something like that.
Nice. And how do you guys divvy up the work? So
Meg's always been kind of the editor. She's just so good at it. She's been doing it for so long. Me, if I edit, like I've edited a few sessions, like if she needed help, and you know, I'm okay in Lightroom. I can get the job done and get the colors and stuff. But man, when it comes to Photoshop and you know, she's just so good and makes it so easy. And so it seems like it's nothing for her to do like face swaps and stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know. You always see those horror stories online, like those. I think there was that article that went around where like the woman made the entire family like gray. They looked like Voldemort. And that would be me. I'm afraid I would do that. So yeah, when it comes to the editing, she handles all of the editing. As far as shooting goes, like on a typical wedding day, you know, she'll go with, if the bride's getting ready and all her crew, she'll go over there and I'll go hang out with the groom and his crew. And then we'll meet up in time for the ceremony and shoot together. But yeah, once we get home, once we dump all the images and everything, I'll cull my images and she'll cull hers. And then I'll just say, okay, here you go. And then she finishes it up. So all the business side stuff, I think it helps because technically she already works from home, even though she is full-time. She's a nanny. So during the day she watches a couple of kids. So that helps. During the day, she's able to focus more on the business and inquiries, scheduling, all that stuff. She's already kind of handling it anyways.
Very cool. I'm always interested to hear how you know, a husband and wife team, how they work everything out. Maria edits all our stuff as well.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that like I was the one that when we started, I was the one editing all of our stuff, but she had an idea of how she wanted things to look, and she was having fun like learning and playing with Lightroom, and eventually she kind of just took it over, you know, like she wanted to try some stuff out, and it was fine for me. Like I would, you know, I feel like she has a better eye for aesthetics anyways. So
same.
You know, our look and style is all thanks to her now, and I'm totally fine with that, you know?
Yep. 100%.
And then as far as the business stuff goes, I handle all that stuff. So we kind of split things almost down the middle, I would say.
That's cool.
So I should probably do some more culling than I do.
It is funny because, I really like that part. I really like selecting the images. I like going through and seeing, but me being me, I'm just so much of a perfectionist. I'm so much of a, man, you know, if the focus wasn't just absolutely perfect right here, then, you know, maybe I'll come back to it, but maybe I won't deliver it. And then by the time I'm done, I've only selected like 300 images, and I'm like, oh my God, you idiot. Now you have to go back and redo the whole thing again. So I still like that. You know
what I do like about not looking at any of the images after a wedding is that when I don't see them again until they're all done. Because I go through all her edits to make sure, because we just give it a second eye, because every once in a while one slips through and it's like there's an unedited photo or something in the folder. But it's really cool, you know, just taking the photos, and then the next time I see them, they're completely edited and done. It's kind of nice. Like, oh, I did pretty good. And she's like, no, man, you focused on half of them.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. It's so funny. Or I'll be like, man, there was a sequence of shots that I got that I really, really liked. And she'll be like, yeah, you know, they were good, but man, after like 7, you know, we kind of got the point. We didn't have to include all 7. So I took out a couple, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So how long have you guys been shooting weddings now?
Well, I guess technically we started in 2018. So we're in our 2nd year now.
And how do you feel? How do you think it's been on your end?
Man, we were so hesitant. I think it's the fear of only doing portrait sessions for so long. You know, you have an hour and a half, 2 hours to take your time, be like, okay, let's do this, you nail it. And so that fear that I think a lot of people have when they first start out of, man, you only got one shot for a lot of these, you know, first kissed and all the big events. So the fear of, what if I miss that, you know, in a portrait session, you can just make them do it again. Yeah. So that was a fear of ours. Again, the whole fear of burnout, the fear of dealing with, you know, we have a contract with the bride and the groom, but obviously there's more than just the bride and the groom there. So there's going to be other personalities, attitudes, all that stuff. So we were like, you know, do we really, really want to go into this? And I'm really happy, man. I think after a couple of years, yeah, those things exist, but so do other things. You know, I mean, after a while, you just get used to it. You learn how to handle it. You just learn how to be like, okay, yeah, you know, whatever. If I've been called just photographer at this point and not Josh anymore, you know, that's fine. I'm used to it. So
or camera guy.
I don't know. It's really champ, buddy, whatever. So Yeah, at this point, all the things that we were worried about clearly were just, fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
And after going through with it, I really like it. I hope it's something that as we continue to push on with it, because we don't have any intention of stopping, just always being mindful, like continuing to check in with ourselves and be like, okay, we're really enjoying this, but how are we doing? And at the moment, we're still really good.
And have you guys had any moments of burnout?
No, thankfully not yet. Thankfully, it's been really cool. We're super fortunate. I think a lot of people say this, or at least if they don't, I hope they do. Every client we've had has been so cool. And it might sound like a dick thing to say, but one of the things that we discussed when we decided to go through with it was, we're being kind of selective, I guess, not because we think we're anything, because we don't. There's a million photographers out there.
Yeah.
But we are only taking on a limited number throughout the year because of still working. And it's kind of nice. It kind of gives you that choice to say, okay, man, I hope this doesn't sound like a dick.
No, I know what you're trying to say, man. And you know,
right.
and it's true. In the position you're in, we've been in the same position that we only take on, Maria and I only take on about 12 or 15 weddings a year, and we're pretty selective. I would say we're pretty selective. We haven't had to be. The couples that do approach us and hire us, which I'm sure you're in the similar case, that they end up being great, right?
Yep.
But yeah, you are in a position where you choose the weddings that you want to do. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, man, because because you're also avoiding situations that could be bad. That I've told this story, but I had a bride once who hired us, and this was when Maria and I were first, joining forces. We were still, this was a couple years back, and at the consultation, the bride was just mentioning all these different shots that she wanted. She was mentioning all the, what's it called? The Pinterest signs that she was bringing. She had she was going to, like, her engagement session, she was going to bring like 20 different signs that she wanted to photograph. And it's just, which there's nothing wrong with, but that's not our style. And at the time we just didn't have the confidence, I guess, to say like, hey, maybe this isn't the right fit. And that we were already thinking that in the consultation. Come to find out that, and we did the engagement shoot. They didn't like it. We reshot it for them. Yeah. Like, it was a nightmare. Like, I hope this doesn't happen for the wedding. Well, turns out the couple unfortunately ended up splitting up. And so they didn't need our services. And, definitely after that point, we were like, we have to, if we feel that this is not the type of couple that we would want to shoot, or that aren't gonna, they obviously aren't coming for our specific style. Maybe they just liked our price or something, and that's why they went with us. I don't know. So
how bad is that feeling though, of like, you had this horrible experience, you already did it with them again, and then they're like, oh, the idea that they're like, hey, we're really, really sorry, but we're actually not going to go through with it. Yeah. Deep down, like, I'm going to have that feeling of, oh, okay, you're doing me a favor. So
yeah, that's
kind of cool. Thank you.
It was a relief. Like, it was a relief to not have to photograph the wedding. Because what if they didn't like any of their photos? Like an engagement shoot, I can shoot their engagement session 10 times until they like it. But their wedding, we only get the one chance. So it was making me really nervous going into that wedding. And so, like I said, it's very unfortunate that they split up. But fortunate for us that we didn't have to go through with that wedding, because that could have put us in a much worse situation, and I'm sure everyone's heard horror stories of situations like that. We don't want to get ourselves involved in something like that. So I agree. I feel you.
And I think you put it right though. That's what I was trying to say. So thank you. It's yes, we have now the ability to be selective, but we're really, really lucky that so far we haven't had to kind of play that card.
Yeah.
But it gives me peace of mind just knowing in the back of my head. That's what I was saying. I hope I don't sound like a dick, being like, you want to hire us, but also what is it about you that makes us want to work with you as people, not as what your images are going to look like? Because that I don't care about that. But as people, if I'm going to spend an entire day with you, how am I going to be feeling at the end of the day? Or is it going to be an experience where I feel really, really good about how the day went, I got? Or is it going to be, man, I'm so glad it's over with, I don't have to deal with them anymore? And I like not having to be put in that situation.
Yeah. None of us want to be in that situation.
Right.
No, that's cool, man. So how do you guys, how did you guys come across your clients? Like, I know you said you guys were doing like portrait stuff before. Mm-hmm. Is that kind of like where your clientele started, or how did you guys start advertising your weddings when you were already photographers and then moving into it?
I think we got really, really lucky, man. We worked with really, really cool portrait clients. I think it was a lot of just word of mouth. Where we live is kind of like a more, not rural, but it's definitely not, we're right in between Orlando and Tampa. So we're not in Orlando or in Tampa, so it's a little bit smaller area, we just got lucky, man. We had a lot of cool clients, a lot of cool customers, people who would pass off our information to other people, or they would be like, hey, some of the clients who, or like, like I said, we did an engagement session for a couple, and we followed up with them and said, hey, you know what? I know we said we weren't going to, but you guys actually convinced us to do otherwise. And we did that since with other engagement sessions. So I don't know. It all just kind of worked out. I mean, I guess technically we've done the typical advertising, Facebook, you pay $5 or $10 or whatever and get your ad posted. And we did that a couple of times, and, Instagram, I think just like anyone else does. But I would, if I had to be honest, I would say maybe 60 or 70% of our inquiries come through our website. And then the remainder is just word of mouth.
I don't even know how long I've been following your work now, but I definitely brought you on because of your work. Like, I was definitely drawn to your work.
Thank you.
Yeah, you guys got a really good style. And like I said, I didn't even realize that you guys were in Florida.
Thanks, man. I'll be honest. Cool. When you contacted me, I was like, I'm pretty sure he meant to send this to someone else, but I'm not about to say anything. So I went with it. I don't know if you realized it once I actually got on the phone with you, but too late now. I'm here.
No, man, I want to talk to all photographers, right? Like,
yeah.
And I use this podcast to talk to, I want to reach out to photographers that I admire, period. And I just want to get to know more about them. Do you know what I mean?
That's cool. So, yeah, no, I totally agree, man. That's awesome.
So no,
it's tough. I wanted to know what you thought, because I feel like with doing the show as long as you have now, obviously you don't have to name specifics. I don't want to know specifics, but I think I've learned over the years now of just shooting in general, a lot of photographers, it's hit or miss. I think some people tend to take themselves too seriously and maybe feel that, they look at it as art, which it is art 100%.
Yeah.
But I think that sometimes they forget how to just be people too. I think that they prioritize it so much on, I'm the artist, that's what you're paying for, that they also forget how to just be a people person. And so I've had that experience a lot. And I've also had people who are, truly, truly talented, really nice, awesome people, and don't take themselves too seriously. So yeah, it makes me curious, someone like you who's been doing this for so long, and especially this show, is that something that you run into often, where, like, have you ever done an interview and at the end you're like, man, that didn't go the way I thought it would?
No, I haven't had that situation yet, but whenever I do reach out to guests, I mean, most of the time I like, if it's, like you and I have already been following each other's work for a little while. So you already knew who, what the Wedding Photo podcast was. But when I reach out to guests who don't follow the podcast, or I'm sure they don't know about the podcast, I do a whole little spiel about, the background of this podcast. It's getting a broad sense of how other photographers, started and grew their businesses and their experiences, because I feel like a lot of our experience are all very similar, but when you're doing it, you feel kind of alone, you feel like it's very easy to be self-conscious about what you're doing. So I feel like that easily weeds out the photographers that, or people that don't really want to share with the world what they have to say or something. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I come from a background of, when I first started in photography, I worked at a photo studio, and I was surrounded by all kinds of different photographers, and we were all friends, and we all shared each other's knowledge. Like, I had zero knowledge at the time. So when I was coming up,
right,
I had mentors that were in the range of, 20 years old all the way up to in their 50s. And some of these photographers, were shooting weddings back in the film days. They were shooting portrait or product photography, back in the day. So like, everybody had like a wide range of knowledge, and everyone was willing to share everything. When I was coming up, that's how I mean, even when I bought my first DSLR, I went around circles, like talking to everybody about what would be the best purchase for my first like official DSLR. And thanks to all of them, I was, that's how I made my decision on what to get. So I come from a background of everybody just sharing their knowledge and helping each other grow. And, so to me, that's the best thing that could have happened to me, in my business. And so of course I want to share whatever I know to anybody who needs to hear something.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
I think that's huge. I think, we were talking about this a little bit already, but the whole concept of, community over competition, it's crazy to me. I really like the idea of, like you said, like your example of working even in just like a photo studio. You're a wedding photographer now, right? But you learned some things from someone who shot product photography. Yeah. So in certain instances, you're going to be looking at a wedding portrait from a product photographer's perspective. And I think that's so cool because it is art. That's what sets everyone, apart from someone else. And the idea that more and more people are getting a camera every day, and more people are getting really into it. I think for certain people who, kind of like who I was talking about before, the people who only take themselves so seriously and forget how to just, be a human being. Yeah. I think those people can look at that and get really, really upset and be like, well, what are these people doing and invading my territory and coming in? But to me, I think it's really cool because now there's another person with another perspective that I know I don't have, not probably, I know I don't have it. And, it's also too, like I've heard a lot of times where people will be like, well, the more and more people who keep grabbing a camera and keep trying to take on weddings and stuff, they're going to invade my business. But man, like the more people who are getting cameras, I can guarantee you the same amount of people are also getting married. Yeah. So it's not like there's one deficit versus the other. So I don't know. I think it's cool. I like how this show goes because even like the conversations that you've had with Eric, man, like me being a Sony shooter, I also I love gear. I love talking gear. I love talking equipment. And it's interesting because a lot of the stuff that gets talked about on episodes like that are basically gear related, there's so much good info that whenever it's over, it's like, man, that's cool. I didn't know. And I wouldn't have known had it not been there. So I don't know. I'm just a really, really big fan of people sharing ideas. Otherwise, I don't think we'd be able to take what we know and then turn it into what we do, if any of that even made sense.
There's such a huge advantage in crossing platforms like that. I credit my ability to handle crowds to the work that I used to do doing group photos for schools. I used to do big senior photos and group photos for like elementary, middle school, all the different school years. But these group photos that I used to do, I mean, they ranged from 200 people to 900 people. I did I recently posted on the group a picture of me on a crane, and that picture, I think I did a school photograph of like 2,500 kids, and what people don't know about some of those things, that work was really fun, man. It was actually really exciting. Like there were times where I'd go to a middle school. I'll just tell a quick story. There'd be times where I'd go to a middle school and I'd have to do a panoramic photo. We used to shoot on these Fuji 6x17 film cameras. Mm-hmm. And first of all, you had like, I don't know, what was it? Maybe like 6 images that you can shoot on one roll. And we were limited on rolls. So most of the time you just had, one roll and a backup roll. And then you showed up with a ladder, chalk, and some tape. So you had to go out in the field, measure these lines. You had to make them far enough apart so when you're up on the ladder, you can see everybody's faces. it was like they were stacked on bleachers, except they were out on the grass, you know? And like I said, there'd be like 200, 300, 400 kids. Mind you, I'd show up and I would be alone. I wouldn't have an assistant with me.
Yeah, right.
If I was lucky, I had a, what's it called? If I was lucky, I would have like a mega horn, or something to, you know, to like be able to get all these kids to listen to me. I'd be alone.
Yeah.
I'd be in charge of like 600 kids. A lot of times the staff, that was like their time to like take a break. You know, they were like, there you go. There's all the kids. and as soon as they start coming out, somehow me by myself, I was able to get them all lined up. We lined them up, from like shortest to tallest to shortest. There was like a whole spewel, right? But the kids, I mean, that's where I learned how to work with crowds, is what I'm trying to say. These kids would come out. I'd bring them out to the line. I'd get them all set up. I'd do this whole spiel about the photos, make sure you're not blinking. And then I'd get it all done in like a half hour and send them back. And I remember the school staff was like, how the heck did you do all that? or they'd be upset. Like, we thought this was going to take an hour and a half. We thought we were going to get more of a break, but you know, we got so good. And there was only a few of us that did that style of photography there, because there was no format for it. Like, it was something where I went on and learned from a couple mentors at that job. And then if you were lucky enough, they'd start giving you those jobs to do, you know, on your own. So I think there was like 4 or 5 of us that did that style of photography, but I credit, my working with groups at weddings to that. I can wrangle, you know, a group of bridesmaids and groomsmen, or when we're doing family photos, like I can group talk really, really easy. And I credit all of that I did back then.
Do you just, at weddings, do you wind up just like threatening the bridesmaids and groomsmen with like detention because you still think they're students?
No, I don't think. Although now that I think about it, man, I wish I could, man.
Yeah. Hey, if you don't get this right, there's no recess for you after the ceremony. They're like, what the hell are you talking about?
No, they're usually not that bad, you know?
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
And then I usually send, my little trick is I'll send Maria to get the guys in order, because I feel like they're more likely to listen to her than to me.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's crazy. It's crazy. I think like I start off the day, especially, which I mean, you know, that if it's, you know, groom, bride, whatever, but the majority of the weddings that we shoot are bride and groom. And yeah, man, I'll start off the day with them. I'm like, hey, these guys are really cool. I really feel like I'm clicking with them. It's so great. And I try and round them up for the bridal party shots. And I'm just like, hey, I really, really need you guys to listen to me. And then, you know, Meg will step in and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, totally. Whatever you need. I'm just like, whatever, man.
No. And also, it's true what you said about it, Eric, and sharing ideas, man. Cause, I'm glad that he's gone through a lot of the stuff that we both transitioned to Sony from Canon. Before that, I watched him transition from Nikon over to Canon. Like, he had nothing but Nikon gear. He had a ton of it too. And I watched him do a full transition over to Canon. And it's cool just knowing people like that. And if you know Eric, I mean, you could reach out to him and talk to him and ask him questions. He's heavily involved in groups and trying to figure out, he's a big gearhead too. Mm-hmm. And I love having those conversations with them, because, you know, when I'm going through my transition over to Sony, like, I can look to him and, you know, he's already bought some of the lenses that I'm thinking about getting, or even now we go back and forth. Like, we both bought the Tamron 28-75, and he was having some focusing issues during receptions. He ended up just getting rid of it and getting a different lens. Yeah,
I had the same experience.
Really, with that same lens?
I don't think that's Tamron, because I mean, man, any review you look up online, any YouTube video, anything, everyone can't stop saying how many great things they can about it. So I think I just got a bad copy. I got one, I think about a year ago. I got the 28-75. And it was a lot of back focusing was my issue. So I was like, hey, you know what? He
said his issue was literally just at receptions, like with the darkness. Like, he didn't have any focus issues during the day. It was just when he was in those dark rooms trying to use his lighting system. That was the only times he had any problems with it.
Such a bummer.
Yeah.
Because I know it's a great lens.
Yeah. And I use it all the time for receptions. I have had zero issues with it, you know.
It's so crazy. What's crazy to me about what Tamron and Sigma and all of them are doing is like they're third party, and Sony for the longest time, you know, the biggest complaint people had about them was the fact that their native lenses, if you're not getting, I mean, the G Max are just crazy expensive, and it's hard to justify lenses that expensive. But man, especially Tamron, all the stuff that came out about the 70 to 180 that's coming out soon.
Yeah.
The comparisons I've seen already, it's just insane how quick they are. So yeah, I think right now Sony's definitely picking it up as far as lens options, even if they're not native. There's quite a bit of variety compared to just a few years ago.
And I would honestly, I'd rather have the G Masters if I could afford them. The reason I turned to like the Tamron is mostly because we shoot video as well, and I don't mind having a heavy camera and lens when I'm shooting photos, because I can put the camera down or it's strapped onto me. But you know, when I have to hold it on a gimbal the whole time, or if I'm doing some freehand stuff, like I rather that camera be as light as possible. yeah, I totally relate with that. My main lens, I think maybe 80% of the day I try to shoot 50 millimeters if I can. Yeah. And I had the Sigma 50, and I mean, that's not the heaviest lens in the world, but it's not light after a while. They're heavy, man.
Yeah, they're bricks for sure. And I kept thinking more and more about, if I am going to be walking around all day, I want to make sure that I'm walking with a light kit. And the one downside to it, it could be better now. I don't know. I've heard that they've done more updates since then. That was about a year ago. They did just every once in a while. I would say if I took maybe 5 shots, maybe 3 of them would be in focus. It was just a little bit slower. And I think everyone's heard that a lot of people say for the Sony lenses, it's probably just the original lens with the mount adapted into the lens.
Yeah.
So, which, I mean, that would make sense, but I had my eye on the Zeiss 55 for a while anyways, and it's just smaller and it's lighter. I don't mind that it's f1.8 versus f1.4. So anyways, I basically sold the Sigma and got the Zeiss, and I really, really love that thing.
Oh, nice, man. Yeah.
Yeah, it's super, super reliable.
Is that your go-to everything type of lens?
Yeah, I would say, I think probably. Short answer is yeah. On a regular wedding day, I'll usually wear 2. I have the A7 III with the Zeiss 55, and then my other camera is the A7 III with the Sony 28 millimeter, the f2 for wide shots. And then I'll keep the Sony 85, the 1.8 in my bag, just in case I need it for like a ceremony or something. I'll have it, but that's pretty much my whole kit for a whole day.
Do you do any photos on the side, like not wedding related, just for fun?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the business goes, we still try to do, once coronavirus is done, we still try to do like portraits and stuff as well. And we just have a lot of fun doing those. So yes, we do that. Me and Meg, we try to go on walks as often as possible. So I'll probably take like a camera with me then. And I just use her for random shots or whatever. If we take the dog somewhere, I like trying to find an excuse to bring one. And a lot of times she'll be like, this is so dumb. Like, we're just going to the grocery store. Calm down. You don't have to bring it with you. But I can't help it. It's fun. And if I can, I want to try and not get rusty, especially while I'm kind of stuck at home anyways. So are there any specific lenses you're playing around with right now? Like that I would like to get?
I guess that too. I mean, I guess I'll go into that too. So like right now I was playing around with the 28 to 75, but I switched over to just the 85 for a little while, just, playing around the house kind of thing. Yeah. But today I started looking at what other options I had, and I've been looking at this, it's like a cheaper lens, but it's a 35 millimeter 1.2, and it's a fully manual lens, but it's little, so like I like the idea of having that, not having autofocus just to play around with at home, So that's like the one lens that I've been thinking about doing a purchase. What have you been looking at?
Well, as far as just like playing around, the 28 is so much fun, and it's funny because the big comparison, I think, for Sony shooters, if you want a wider angle lens, I think the two big options right now are either the 28 f2 or the G Master, the 24 1.4. And the 24 apparently is really, really, really good and super reliable and everything that kind of comes with the name and the price that you're paying for. But the 28 definitely gets the job done. It's extremely small, extremely light, which was really appealing for me. Again, just trying to make my kit as light as possible. So, and it hasn't really steered me wrong. Again, I don't mind the f2. If I'm shooting wide, wide open at f2, it doesn't make that big of a difference for me anyways. Because if I'm using that lens, I'm trying to get as wide of a shot as possible.
Yeah.
So playing around, like around the house, or if we go somewhere, it's usually going to be that one. And I'm really happy with what I have as far as a setup, but that Tamron 70 to 180, that is pretty sweet, because to compare it to the G Master, I think the G Master is like $2,600, and then the Tamron got announced to be like $1,200.
Yeah.
So I think for $1,400 difference, I wouldn't miss 20 millimeters between 180 and 200. So
yeah,
definitely eyeing that one for sure.
Yeah, I've got that one in on my checklist as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say Meg's setup, she's so much just very adaptable.
Yeah.
Not simple in a bad way, but just very like, hey, this is what I have, this is what I want, that's it. So on a wedding day, she'll probably just she has an A7 III as well, and she uses the Sigma 35 f1.4. She really, really loves that lens. Super good, super reliable. And then as a backup, just in case if she does need something wider than that, 35 is probably the largest that she'll shoot. So she tends to just kind of stay back a little bit more. And if it's more of a zoom shot, like I said, I'll use the 85, or even with the 55. I don't know if you ever used the crop feature in the A7 III, but sometimes it helps just in case you have to use it. You can go APS-C mode and then, crop it in a little bit. So if I have to use that, I will. And then, or if, like I said, for her, she'll have the A6500 in her bag, and the Sigma 16 millimeter, the f1.4, she'll have that in case she needs something wider than 35.
Ooh, that actually used to be our setup as well, man. When we first, that was our first Sony camera before we got the A7 III. We had the A6500, and I bought it specifically to just do video. Like, we weren't even photographing with it, but it became our like travel camera. Like, we stopped taking our cameras anywhere except for that one. So I had the Sigma 16 millimeter, and I had a Sigma, what was it, the 30 millimeter.
Yeah, those are some good little lenses, man. That A6500, I feel like it's underrated. I think they've got the 64 and the 6600 now, which the 6600's got amazing battery, all the things that you really want out of the A6500. But when it comes to needing a job done, the A6500 does just fine.
Yeah, they're awesome camera, and we miss it too. Like I ended up trading that camera I had like a whole vlog set up, and I traded the whole thing for an A7 III body. And we weren't ready to like switch over yet, so we didn't have money to buy a lens, or I didn't have anything for it. So for like a month, we just sat there with the A7 III body, and we couldn't do anything with it.
That's so cool though. It's just a straight trade. Like yeah, you didn't get a lens, but at the same time, you still got like that's the thing you need the most is the body. That's awesome. Yeah. And did you I know you mentioned that you were coming from Canon. Did you ever use the Canon to Sony lens adapter? And if you did, what did you think about it?
I did. Yeah. So Eric has one, and I borrowed his because I was trying to decide if I was going to buy one or not. And he sent his over to me, and it was good. I liked it. I didn't have, you know what though? I didn't put it out on, I didn't test it out on the field. So I didn't go to any weddings and throw it on. Did I? Yeah, no. If I did, maybe once, but like not even enough to really put it to the test, So I just played around with it at home.
That's so scary.
Yeah, I just played around with it at home, and it looked like it would have been just fine. I know he still uses it every once in a while. He's got it, and he's got some Canon lenses still that he plays around with. But yeah, no, I ended up, after testing it, I just decided to go full Sony. You know what I mean? So I ended up getting I had already bought the 35, the Sigma 35. I got the Sigma 85, and then shortly after we got the Tamron as well. So
hell yeah.
that's our
Welcome to the dark side, man.
I know. It's been fun, man. I enjoy Sony a lot.
I really like it. I really like it. And I will say this, obviously my experience with other brands like Nikon, Canon, the only thing I really know about them outside of like limited experiences is just what I know from reading things or watching videos. But I don't know. It does feel good. Like back in 2013, 2014, when people are like, huh, that's interesting that you would choose Sony. And us being like, yeah, you know, it's cool. We like it. Yeah. And see where it is now. Just feels kind of like a nice, like, okay, well, I think we made the right decision.
Yeah. And you know what? Right now is like you really can't go wrong with any. I feel like you can't go wrong with any camera brand, right? Like everybody's got something that I would love to play around with, and the only reason I don't is because we're not in a position to. I mean, making a full transition is difficult as it is, you know. So and we've toyed with the idea of like, you know, buying. We really love Fuji's XT system, so we've toyed with the idea of like getting one of those just for us, just to play around with. But then, you know, when we really think about it, we could be using that money for some gear, Sony gear that we could really use. So
totally. No, I get that. Fuji was really exciting for a while. That was something we considered maybe getting just as kind of a, you know, like a walk around camera. And dude, like the stuff that they're doing now with the EOS R5 and all the stuff that Nikon, all the Nikon rumors that are coming out, what a time.
Yeah, I know, man.
Dude, a few years ago, the stuff that, it's so funny. I still tell some people sometimes, and they're like, okay, I think you might be pushing a little bit too much. But again, just speaking from like the A7 III's perspective, if it's really, really low light, I actually feel pretty okay with shooting around 10,000 ISO. Yep. And I don't think I would be able to say that a few years ago. Yeah. So what a time. It's insane.
Yeah, I know that you really can do that.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be a little bit grainy, but lucky, you know, grain's kind of in right now, so I'm going to go with it.
I always say that I don't mind the grain on the Sony systems. Like when I was shooting the 5D3s, I would push my grain up to like the 4,000 range. I've shot above that with, you know, if we had to, and they were totally photos that you could turn in. It wasn't even a big deal, you know, but I would shoot up to 4,000. With Sony, I've shot higher than that, and it doesn't bother me. It looks fine. You know what I mean? And my clients love the work. So that's really the only thing that matters at the end of the day when it comes to weddings, you know?
100%. I haven't had a client be like, hey, this photo looks like you shot it at 10,000 ISO. Yeah. Why would you deliver this? If it's still like really grainy, just put it in black and white and they'll think it's artistic.
I know. No, we haven't had any issues like that. But yeah, there's no bad brand, I feel like, right now. They're all doing something pretty cool.
Totally. Which is good. That's competition.
What are you doing to prepare for your comeback, for all this to be over?
Man, I don't know. We had a lot of postponements.
Yeah.
I don't know how you guys are handling it down over in California, but over here, I think Florida's been on the news a couple times now. I think we're just really, really behind the curve on a lot of things. I know like theme parks and stuff are having a huge impact on what our economy is like. So I think our governor's trying to get them all back open as soon as possible. So I say all of that to say the postponements that we've had right now, they've been tentative to the end of May based on what we're being told in our state. And hopefully, as long as we get the clear and as long as we feel comfortable with it, by that time, we'll be able to hit the ground running and just pick them right back up where we left off. So in the meantime, we're literally just standing around the house trying to stay busy and make sure we don't get too rusty. What about you guys? Are you guys doing
anything extra, like pushing out extra advertising or blogs or anything like that?
Blogging, yes. Yeah. So I think that since we've got the downtime, that's definitely something we need to take advantage of anyway. So, we have a couple engagement sessions. I think at the moment, all of our weddings are up to date. So I think we'll probably blog a couple extra engagement sessions just to kind of get them up there, and then maybe space them out over the next month and a half or whatever. And hopefully by that point, once we get the sessions back up, if we finish the session like day of, when we finish, we try and post some previews right away and kind of use that as our advertising too. Yeah. So hopefully we can get right back into the groove, because I would say for like the last maybe year and a half, we had if it wasn't like a wedding a weekend, we may have had like one wedding a month, just, you know, roughly.
Yeah.
But otherwise we may have had like one portrait session out of a weekend. So at least once a week, we're trying to post something new if we can.
Nice. We right before all this happened, I was really taking advantage of our blogging. I was blogging multiple times a week. And we had a huge backlog of things to blog because I don't know if you heard, but I didn't put out a blog for like over a year. And then I started using Publisher by Narrative. And after I got on with them, like blogging just became a lot easier. It used to take us a couple hours like to put a blog together the way we did it for whatever reason. And now it became so easy. So it got fun, and I was putting out blogs every week. And the way I was looking at it is I was putting in the work for next year. Cause this year we had only booked about, we were not even at 10 weddings. And it was due to us like doing no advertising last year at all. Yeah. And we were kind of okay with that. We were like, okay, it's fine. But before this happened too, we were already getting, because of all the blogging I was doing, we were getting inquiries. I booked 2 more weddings for like the end of the year. And usually around now, we probably would have gotten to our 10 or 12 weddings for this year, you know, but, you know, everything got put on the back seat for now. But all that blogging I was doing, I was mostly preparing us for having like a really good year next year. And when it all hit, I kind of just stopped doing it. Right now, I haven't blogged anything. And I think the reason is that, I was blogging, I was using up all the backlog stuff, and right around now, I would have like run out of everything, and we would have been using just a few shoots that we did at the beginning of the year. And then the idea was from now on, every engagement shoot or wedding that we did, we had a faster turnaround. So we were just going to blog them out right away. Well, all those weddings got put on hold or postponed. So I only have a few things to blog. So I feel like I'm kind of just hanging on to them so that I can use some stuff to start advertising when we get back into the groove, you know?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, so, I totally get that.
So yeah, we've completely, and I don't even mean we, I mean, I've taken a break. Maria doesn't, you know, she's okay with she kind of lets me take the wheel on that whole thing, because like I said, we only book a certain amount of weddings a year. So we know we're either going to get those. And if we're not, you know, we're also doing family sessions, like a ton of family sessions throughout the year. And those just keep coming, man. We have like our families that we photograph every year. Yeah. But yeah, as soon as things kind of start going back to normal, I plan on going full blown blogging again and getting those sessions in.
Hell yeah. Yeah. We keep getting the, like on Facebook, you'll get the notification and be like, you haven't posted in a while. It's like, no, I know that's intentional, Facebook, but thank you. I appreciate it.
I do worry because I know like our feed probably is like lost in a lot of people's Instagrams now. They're not even, you know, even if we did post a photo, like almost nobody's going to see it for a while, you know?
Like a Phoenix reborn. They're like, oh my God. There you are.
Yeah. We're going to have to do some like extra paid advertising, or I'm going to have to message everyone individually like, hi, don't forget about us. Go like our latest photo, please.
Dude, even for like our current Instagram posts now, just so we can like still kind of stay on top of it.
Yeah.
We're going back to sessions from like a year ago.
Yeah.
And we're just like, okay, yeah, like I'm okay with that. And,
yeah.
But then you also have that conundrum of, you know, coronavirus is going on right now. Yeah. So you're like, okay, do I have to make every caption being like, just so you know, we didn't do this recently, don't worry. So that
does worry me. It was all those things that made me want to just like stop, you know. I'm worried about how much work I'm going to have to put into it once I come back, but I've completely stopped on all of that stuff. And just cuz I don't even want to think about how to handle every little thing, right? You know?
Yeah. So. It's a huge concern. I totally get that, because that's kind of how it is over here. I think on one hand, especially again being in Florida, there's so many different things that we keep hearing. I think that I could be wrong, but I think we were one of the last states to enact like a stay-at-home quarantine. And like, I think the first time around, our governor even just denied it. He was like, no, yeah, we don't need to do this yet.
Yeah.
So I feel like on one hand, we're kind of behind on the curve, but at the same time, you do have so many people who are like, no, even if it's not a government order, you still should do it. It's the right thing. And so, but as a business, it's tough because what is the right thing? Technically, our contract is with these people, and if it's not illegal to go outside, and if we've already made this agreement, then how do we figure that out? So thankfully, I think the majority of our customers contacted us with the idea of postponing to a later date. And so we're like, okay, hey, that's fine. As long as you're okay with that, we're okay with that too.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember we had a couple sessions that got moved until mid-April, and then obviously those we've already changed them since. We had a few clients that were like willing to do the shoots, and I feel like it's really hard to make those decisions when this is all going on, because you don't really know anybody's situation, and as much as we all want to follow suit and not go out and not expose ourselves or expose anybody else and make this situation any worse, like, you also have to be sympathetic to people's situations too,
Yeah, totally.
And we had one or two clients that were trying to get us to go out and do a shoot regardless, and I know that I could have, and I know places where I could have taken them and it wouldn't have been an issue, and we could have practiced social distancing and all that stuff. But it still doesn't feel right with everything going on, So we've officially postponed everything until May, and we'll kind of just readjust when we get there and take it from there.
That's where we're at, because like, personally, like, I could say yes or no, I agree with you, or like you said, hey, maybe I do know a spot, and no one says I have to post previews, not every, but as a business, that's such a scary decision, because you put your name out there and you do have a reputation, and if people disagree with what you're doing, I think everything right now, there's definitely a lot of right and wrong that we can do, but so much of this is a gray area too.
Yeah. So
it's just kind of easier to step back and just wait it out.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll wait it out. All right, that's enough Corona talk, man.
Yeah.
I've been trying to avoid that.
Yeah.
We won't get too deep into it. What kind of lighting system do you use at weddings?
It's extremely impressive. It's extremely massive. It takes me a lot of time to carry it in. It's not.
Oh, you must be using Pro Photo.
Yes. No, we're pretty simple. I was talking about it earlier. I'm so impressed by how much we can push the ISO on these cameras and how well they do in low light. I don't really try to use a flash unless we just absolutely have to. So we have, for Sony, I think they're kind of similar to the newer ones. It's the newer, I forget what they're called. I think it's like GRW or something like that. Mm-hmm. They're like $70, $75 flashes. They're nothing crazy, the on-camera flash. But we'll bust those out if we need them. I have one of the, it's Godox, but it's the smaller one.
Yeah.
I don't remember the model, but that's also just kind of like a backup in case we need it. So lighting wise, nothing too insane. We don't do any kind of off-camera stuff or any kind of umbrella stuff. I think just us personally, our own style, I have total respect to anyone who does use those things. But I kind of like when the lighting is a little bit uneven. I kind of like when you can play around with the shadows a little bit. And it also, again, just talking about trying to have as light of a kit as possible. If I can still have a really, really reliable flash system that if it does break, oh well, it's cheap. I can just get another one. That's, at least for right now, that's the route that we're going. But I could see it coming to a point where we get kind of tired of that and we do want to try something new.
That's pretty much the point that we hit, because we were kind of in the same boat. We only used our flashes for our receptions, and even then, if there was enough lighting, or what we do is if there is enough lighting for sure, one of us will shoot with the on-camera flash, and the other one will just shoot high ISO, so that we have a little mixture of both. That's actually our preference. We really like doing that. And
I think that's awesome.
And that also allows us to, because we have two flashes, that does allow us to kind of play around. For the longest time, I was using a Canon 550EX on my camera, and then I would, using the infrared, I would use a newer I don't even remember. I don't know the model number. I just know it was like $30 on Amazon.
Yeah, cheap.
And yeah, so I would throw that on a stand and just kind of do something a little extra. And that was my way of playing around. You know, Maria was playing around with the high ISO stuff, and then I was playing around with the flashlighting and doing some creative stuff, or not, or just, you know, on camera flash. That's always been our go-to. But right before all this happened, I had just bought a new lighting system that I was looking forward to. I was going to throw 2 lights out on the dance floor and just use a wireless trigger to set them off, and that was going to allow for some new stuff. But we got that because I was kind of just getting bored with what we were doing, and you know, we're always trying to find new ways to switch things up, you know.
Totally. Yeah, I get that.
So are you guys planning on getting any new lighting systems or anything like that?
For the time being, I don't think so, man. Yeah. I'm really impressed with what we have. I'm really, really impressed with how these things do. They're not bad. Like, I keep saying, like comparing them to the Yongnuo, because I think Yongnuo for a long time, people were just like, oh, it's just a cheap system, you know, whatever. But I think they've proven that they're still really capable. And again, like if they break, I haven't put, you know, hundreds of dollars into just one flash. It's pretty easy. Rather than trying to fix it, I can just get a brand new one. So I think we're going to roll with these for now and see. I'll probably eat my words and get into like this giant venue that's super poorly lit, and I won't have any light to bounce off. But from what I understand, I don't think we're booked for any kind of venues like that. So I think we're okay.
Well, you're gonna have to keep me updated on some of the stuff that you guys play around with, because I'm always interested in the things that other photographers are doing. I've gotten a lot of tricks off of, you know, like Steven and Eric and those guys, just what they do. I'm like, I want to try that, you know? So yeah. And that's also what I love about like second shooting for other photographers, is you get to learn those little odds and ends that you wouldn't never really do. Do you ever go second shoot for anybody else?
Not really. I mean, Meg and I were just so used to shooting with each other. We kind of know what type of approach each person's going to take. We kind of know, okay, she's going to go over here, I'll go over here, or vice versa. If I'm setting up the couple and she's like, okay, he's obviously going for this shot. Let me go over here, see if I can get something cool. So for the most part, we do a lot of shooting by ourselves. We did some second shooting, like to kind of get prepared for weddings a couple years ago when we decided that we were going to jump into it, just so we could make sure we weren't totally going in, you know, with cold feet. Yeah. But yeah, otherwise it's mainly just shooting with each other. If there's like a session or something and one of us can't make it because you know, we're sick or whatever, then the other one will just go. No big deal. Yeah. But
I know I always offer myself to any of our friends in the area when they need somebody else, just because I like I said, I like going and seeing how they shoot, and you just get a new perspective, you know, like just like you two, Maria and I know each other, know exactly what we're going to do at weddings, and we have a ton of fun. And because we've been doing it so long now, we're so comfortable at weddings that we're able to really just enjoy it. You know, I mean, there's always an underlying nervous feeling at a wedding. I still get butterflies going into it, you know, but I know what I'm doing there. I'm not worried about missing anything because we've been doing it long enough. And I feel like we have even more fun because of that at weddings. But when I get the chance to go out and second shoot with some friends, it's always a good time, man. It's good to see how they do things differently, how they handle their brides, how they handle their group situations and their family photos, or even just their portrait sessions, to see how they do their posing and how they direct their clients and stuff like that. It's always a lot of fun.
I don't think you can help it. Like, I think everyone has their own, I guess, quote unquote style, right? Mm-hmm. But it's literally a combination of things that I've seen or that Meg's seen or that you've seen or whatever, and of other people doing things or different ideas that you have. But it all kind of becomes its own original thing. But yeah, that's so important to me. I really, really like when people feel okay with asking me a question and like not feeling weird about it. Yeah. Or being like, hey, you know, I'm kind of considered, which I mean, I'm nobody. It doesn't matter. But my point is, if someone were to come to me and say, hey, I'm really kind of considering these two systems, what is your opinion? What do you think about it? Yeah. It feels good. It feels nice being able to be like, okay, well, hey, based on what I know, it's this, and having that, like, even just the slightest influence in kind of where they decide to go with whatever they go with, or however they shoot with it, or whatever. It feels good. I think that's how it's meant to be. Yeah. And yeah, I think that's rad. And the fact that you're still willing to do that after all these years and still like, no, I want to go shoot, I want to learn more. I think that's huge too. Because the people who benefit the most are your clients.
That's true, man. I couldn't have said it better myself. That's good. You gotta stay open-minded. You gotta stay willing to grow, willing to learn. You know, we don't know it all. And I mean, the photography industry is a fast-paced growing industry, and you gotta keep up with it.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
All right, man. Well, I want to thank you again for coming on, man. You and your wife, you guys are doing some really awesome stuff over there. Tell everyone where they can find you online.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. Okay. I am literally, my Instagram is just at Josh LaGrone, LAGRONE. Her Instagram is Meg LaGrone, MEGLAGRONE. And then our actual business Instagram is just the Lagrones. So yeah, feel free to hit us up if you have any questions, anything that I can or can't answer. Let me know. I love to hopefully talk about things that are interesting to other people.
Awesome, man. Well, we'll keep in touch, you and I, and what's going on, and maybe we can have you on again to get an update on everything you guys been up to.
Cool. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
That's it, everybody. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Wedding Photo Podcast. You can find this podcast on Instagram at Wedding Photo Podcast. You can also find me on Twitter at DelToroPhoto. And don't forget to join the Facebook group. All the links are in the show notes below. And don't forget that if you want to try Publisher by Narrative, you can do so for free. You can also purchase their desktop app with 15% off using the code DelToroPhoto. That link is also in the show notes. If you want to support this podcast, all I ask is that you leave a 5-star rating, leave me a review, and just share this podcast with others. Share it with your friends, with your photography friends. Let them know about it so they can have a listen, and we'll continue to grow this podcast. So thank you, everybody, for listening. Really appreciate you guys coming by, and yeah, we'll see you guys on the next one.